continues to go back to try to get them to put their faith in where? In God. In His scheme of redemption. Or as Teller says, the big picture. And that's what we're dealing with in these chapters 20, 21, 22 in this area here. All right, chapter 20. Let's just begin reading the first verse. Isaiah chapter 20 and verse, let's read verses 1 and 2. Somebody?
In the year that the commanders came to Ashdod, when Sargon the king of Assyria sent him, and he fought against Ashdod and captured it, at that time the Lord spoke through Isaiah the son of Amos, saying, Go and loosen the sackcloth from your hips, and take your shoes off your feet. And he did so, going naked and barefoot.
Okay, there are several important things here we need to understand. The word tartan, if that's the way you pronounce it, simply means a commander or somebody in charge. It's not a name. It's simply a term to identify, mine says, or the commander-in-chief. Okay? Now, that he was to go to Ashdod. Ashdod is also known as Azotus. If you look at a map. Okay? Keep that in mind. And he did, and he took it. At the same time, the Lord said to Isaiah, Go, remove your sackcloth. What was that? That may have been maybe some kind of robe or some kind of clothing that indicated he was a prophet. He did not go around literally naked. But number one, that was contrary to the law. But it would appear to those that he was, quote, naked, not again literally.
Right. Ashdod is where the Philistines had power. That was the capital city, the Philistines?
Yes, I'm sorry. I forgot to bring that out. Yes, this was the capital of the Philistine at that time. Okay? Now, what follows in the next few verses is interesting. This is a short chapter, but it is important. All right? Now.
Right. When it says he was naked, what I read was that he was not completely naked, but the backside was naked.
Well, that's what, right. It would. How many times have you said to your kids that went out in the river, right in the weather, you going out half naked?
Yeah.
Were they naked?
No.
No, they just didn't have the proper, what you would consider the proper clothing. And that's the situation here. Okay? All right, now, what this is all about is the verses that follow. All right, now let's listen to these verses 3 through 6 very carefully. All right, will someone like to read, please?
And the Lord said, Like as my servant Isaiah hath walked naked and barefoot 3 years, for a sign and wonder upon Egypt and upon Ethiopia, so shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptians prisoners, and the Ethiopians captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, even with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt. And they shall be afraid and ashamed of Ethiopia, their expectation, and of Egypt, their glory. And the inhabitant of this isle shall say in that day, Behold, such is our expectation. Whither we flee for help, to be delivered from the king of Assyria, and how shall we escape?
Okay, the 3-year period, and I don't know, again, how much studying you have done on this. There are some that claim that these 3 years were actually just 3 days. I take it for what it says, 3 years. And that would be a period of time of about 714 to 711, of course, BC. Now, what is interesting is what follows. Now, watch carefully. Again, Judah has put a lot of faith in their help from from Egypt. Now, we've already seen in a previous lesson that Ethiopia and Egypt were synonymous as far as the name. Now, he says that within 3 years that they are going to be destroyed. Now, listen carefully to what follows. So shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptians as prisoners and the Ethiopians as captives. Okay? Now, here is the lesson to Judah. What follows? Listen carefully. Then they shall be afraid and ashamed. Who is they?
Judah.
It would have to be Judah. Now listen carefully. Then they shall be afraid and ashamed of Ethiopia, their expectation, and Egypt, their glory. There it is right there. If you go back to the conversation that Sennacherib's servants had with Hezekiah in 2 Kings, was that 18 and 19? Some of this very same thing came up. You are trusting in I can't remember the exact word.
Reed.
Was it a reed? Yeah. Was it a reed? Right. That's going to be broken. This is the lesson to Judah. All right. Let's read on. Let's see now. Then they shall be afraid and ashamed of Ethiopia, their expectation, and Egypt, their glory. And the inhabitants of this territory will say in that day, surely such is our expectation wherever we flee for help to be delivered from the king of Assyria, and how shall we escape? They were putting their trust in Egypt, and the Lord is showing them through the prophet Isaiah what was going to happen to Egypt. They were putting their trust in the wrong thing, is what it boils down to. These few little verses in this chapter are so important because it really kind of sets the stage for what we're going to read in the next chapters that follow. Class, this is not, if you keep things in their context, things are not as hard as sometimes they may seem. All right? Any thoughts or questions or any comments? As you keep this in the context, to me it becomes rather clear. All right? Now, he's going to move on, as we have it broke down in the English, in chapter 21. Now, again, the question is, the burden against the wilderness of the sea. Who is that? Well, again, the best commentary on the Bible is the Bible. And if you have read that chapter 21, it tells you who it is. And who is it? Babylon. It's Babylon. Particularly, let's see, there's a couple verses here. This is dealing with verses 1 through 10. Now, I realize that this particular section is open for two thoughts. All right, particularly, let's jump ahead for just a moment to verse 9 of chapter 21 of Isaiah. What is the statement there, the bold statement?
Fallen, fallen is Babylon.
Babylon is fallen, fallen. Now, as you read that by itself, it would appear to assume it's talking about the destruction of Babylon by the Medo-Persians in about 536 or somewhere in that area, if I remember correctly. But there are several things here that, in my understanding and looking at some others, what they say, is talking about something that is before that. Now, how do we know that? How do we know it? Well, let me share some thoughts with you on that. Why, first of all, was it called the wilderness of the sea? That is Babylon. Well, my understanding and what I have learned in my study, and you can help me in what you learned in your study, that when the Euphrates and Tigris rivers flooded, it became a, quote, a sea. Not, of course, literally. All right? Now.
It also was a wilderness. It was a, there was no...
Well, there...
It was a wilderness.
Right. Remember, though, just like our lands have changed, and we're talking in that part of the world history for thousands of years, recorded history. All right? Let's see. Will someone read chapter 21, 1 and 2? Chapter 21, verses 1 and 2.
Work against the wilderness of the sea. As whirlwinds in the south pass through, so it comes from the desert from a terrible one. The distressing vision is declared to me. The treacherous dealer deals treacherously, and the plunderer plunders. Go up, O Elam, besiege Arabia. All its siding I have made to cease.
Okay. What's he talking about? What is interesting and where I guess the question comes in, is he talking about the ultimate destruction of Babylon? But all I can share with you is what I have learned in my studying. In the year 696, Sennacherib came against Babylon. Now, there again, Babylon at that time hopefully was a help to Judah against the Assyrians. But Sennacherib went against Babylon. Now, at that time, Babylon was not a world threat. Babylon existed. We talked about this in our previous study. It did not become a world threat or power until the destruction of the Assyrians. What is interesting is Isaiah's response in verses 3 and 4 of chapter 21. Will someone read those two verses, please?
For this reason my loins are full of anguish. Pains have seized me like the pains of a woman in labor. I am so bewildered I cannot hear, so terrified I cannot see. My mind reels, horror overwhelms me. The twilight I longed for has been turned for me into trembling. They set the table, they spread out the cloth. They eat, they drink, rise up, captains, oil the shields. For thus the Lord says to me.
Okay, now if this was the ultimate destruction of Babylon, why would Isaiah be sad? Well, number one, Isaiah didn't live or was not alive at the ultimate destruction of the Babylonian Empire. But he was alive when Sennacherib attacked Babylon. And there again, Judah was looking to Babylon to help them against the Assyrians. And what happened at this particular incident to the Babylonians, they were, quote, defeated. So there again, the nation, if you please, that Judah looked for help was no help at all. That's my understanding. Now, there is some similarity. There is some similarity between what is described here in these 10 verses and what is described in the ultimate destruction of the Babylonian Empire. All right, let's read. All right, let's go back and pick up with verse 5. I guess let's see. Let's read 5 through 9. Will someone please?
They set the table, they spread out the cloth, they eat, they drink. Rise up, captains, oil the shields. For thus the Lord says to me, go station the lookout, let him report what he sees. When he sees riders, horsemen in pairs, a train of donkeys, a train of camels, let him pay close attention, very close attention. Then the lookout called, O Lord, I stand continually by day on the watchtower, and I am stationed every night at my guard post. Now, behold, here comes a troop of riders, horsemen in pairs. And one said, fallen, fallen is Babylon, and all the images of her gods are shattered on the ground.
All right, now that is, all I can, again, class, is share with you what I've learned, and you can share with me what you have learned. When the Medo-Persians destroyed the Babylonian Empire, according to what I have read in the history, Cyrus did not destroy the pagan altars and everything, but Sennacherib did when he attacked Babylon, as recorded in 2 Kings chapters 18 and 19, that we have many references to. I would again, if you're taking notes mentally or literally, you've got to understand what Sennacherib's messenger said to Hezekiah in 2 Kings chapters 18 and 19, and I think it's in Jeremiah, not Jeremiah, Isaiah, I think it's chapter 36. Same thing. You've got to understand that to understand kind of what is going on here. All right. That's my understanding. Anybody? That's my understanding as it fits with the history and it fits with what is said here. All right? Last verse. Verse 10. Isaiah 21, verse 10.
O my threshold people, and my afflicted of the threshing floor, what I have heard from the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, I make known to you.
Okay, and who would be the you there?
Well, us.
Well, in the context, who would be the you? It would have to be Judah. Because that's what, remember, go back to chapter 1 and verse 1. Flip back for a minute to chapter 1 and verse 1 of Isaiah. Who is this written to?
12 tribes?
It tells you, Judah and Jerusalem. Again, why? Tell us, where are you? Why? The big picture. Who is going to come eventually through Judah?
Messiah.
The Messiah. Class, maybe I oversimplified, but there it is. All right, now he is going to, and the next two, or particularly this one, verses 11 and 12 is difficult. But I think there's a Bible commentary on this that helps explain it. Now, listen to what I said. All right, let's read those two verses, 11 and 12. Isaiah chapter 21.
The burden against Judah, he calls to me of Sion. Watchman, what of the night? Watchman, what of the night? The watchman said, the morning comes and also the night. If you will inquire, inquire. Return, come back.
What in the world is he talking about? This sounds like Greek, doesn't it? All right, let me share a couple of thoughts with you. First of all, who is Duma? Duma. What's another name? Edom. Seir is the capital. All right? The watchman evidently is Isaiah. Watchman? What of the night? Watchman? What of the night? The watchman said, the morning comes and also the night. If you will inquire, inquire, return, come back. It sounds like Greek to me. I don't know how to understand this except go to the book of Obadiah. That's one of the minor prophets. You that have the pads have no problem with that. Let me see now. Where is Obadiah? We got Micah, Habakkuk. Somebody, where's Obadiah? Haggai? No. No, way back. Where is Obadiah? Come. There he is. There he is. After Amos and before Jonah. If you have the paper Bible. After Amos and before Jonah, if that helps you any. I don't know anything to do but to read this. Because this explains these two verses of what's going to happen to who are the Edomites?
Esau's descendants.
Yeah, they're Esau's descendants. That bring back in our Wednesday night study some of the old history. And it's interesting. The geography of Edom was very important to their security. All right, I don't know. I debated as I've studied this all week, but I don't know of any choice but to read. It's only just one chapter, 21 verses. But it will explain, in my understanding, these two verses in Isaiah chapter 21. All right, I guess what we'll do, let's just break it down. Someone read 1 through 4. Obadiah only has one chapter, verses 1 through 4. And listen carefully, class.
Thus says the Lord God,
Go ahead.
concerning Edom. We have heard a report from the Lord, and a messenger has been sent among the nations. Rise up, let us rise against her for battle. Behold, I will make you small among the nations. You shall be utterly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, you who live in the clefts of the rock, in your lofty dwelling, who say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? Though you soar aloft like eagles, though your nest is set among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord.
Okay. The geography of that area was where they literally lived up in the caves, I guess. They built houses. And they thought that they were 100% protected from their enemies. And when I read this, maybe some of you, I don't know, Betty and I were somewhere out west, and we saw somewhere where the Indians did the same thing. And I cannot remember where it was. You actually could see where they built houses, well, not houses, well, I guess it was houses in the sense, up in the, back in the caves, I guess. I cannot remember where that was, but I remember seeing it. This is the idea, all right? Let's see, let's read 5 through 7.
If thieves came to thee, and robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers come to thee, would they not leave some grapes? How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee, and that eat the bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him.
Okay. In this verse 3, if thieves come and robbers, they will. How will they be cut off? Will they not stole till they had enough? And gatherers come to you, you would have not left something gleaming. Esau was going to be completely destroyed. Not the land. The land is still there. It's still there. It's interesting to read. I've not been there. Some of you have been in that part of the world. I've not. But it's interesting to read some of the history in the last couple hundred years that fulfill exactly what we're talking about 700 years before Christ. That's what is interesting. These lands have the evidence of the inspiration of God's Word. Some of you have been there. I've not. It's just amazing. All right, let's read 8 and 9.
Will I not say in that day, says the Lord, even destroy the wise men from Edom, and understanding from the mountains of Esau? Then your mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed to the end that everyone from the mountains of Esau may be cut off by slaughter.
All right, let's read 10 and 11.
Violence against your brother Jacob, they shall cover you. You shall be cut off forever. And the day that you stood on the other side, and that day the strangers carried captive his forces, and foreigners entered his gates, and cast lots for Jerusalem, even you were as one of them.
This is something that I oftentimes bring up, class, and half of you can understand what I'm saying. Sometimes I'm not sure if I knew that and forgot it or never knew it. I did not realize that when Judah was taken into Babylonian captivity, Esau or Edom moved in to try to take some of the territory. And that's what he's talking about.
That's in Lamentations.
It's in Lamentations? Okay. I was not aware of that. And this is being brought up here. All right, let's see. Where are we? 12? Did we read 10 and 11? All right, let's see. Let's read 12 through 14.
But you should not have gazed on the day of your brother in the day of his captivity, nor should you have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction, nor should you have spoken proudly in the day of distress. You should not have entered the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Indeed, you should not have gazed on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. You should not have stood at the crossroads to cut off those among them who escaped, nor should you have delivered up those among them who remained in the days of distress.
What's the old saying? What goes around? Comes around. To me, this is an inspired commentary on what we just read in the 21st chapter of Isaiah. All right, let's read 10 through 18. I'm sorry, 15 through 18.
For the day of the Lord draws near, and all the nations, as you have done, it will be done to you. Your dealings will return on your own head, because just as you drank on my holy mountain, all the nations will drink continually. They will drink and swallow and become as if they had never existed. But on Mount Zion there will be those who escape, and it will be holy. And the house of Jacob will possess their possessions. And the house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, but the house of Esau will be as stubble. And they will set them on fire and consume them, so that there will be no survivor of the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken.
All right, finish up 19 through 21.
And those of the Negev will possess the mountain of Esau, and those of Shephelah the Philistine plain. Also possess the territory of Ephraim and the territory of Samaria. And Benjamin will possess Gilead. And the exiles of his host of the sons of Israel, who are among the Canaanites as far as Zarephath, and the exiles of Jerusalem, who are in Sepharad, will possess the cities of the Negev. The deliverers who ascend Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Esau, and the kingdom will be the Lord's.
Why all the, and I know this is an old statement, but why all of this favoritism to Judah?
Because of the promise.
Because of the promise. And we're going to see this as we move on. Judah is going to have to be made aware repeatedly when you act like those same people, just like they do, what's going to happen to you?
Same thing.
Except
Yes.
they cannot be annihilated. But yet, in our Wednesday night study for the last, not the last, but previous months, we studied the book of Revelation, coupled with Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, which deals with the destruction of Jerusalem. Why then? Why not now? Why not now at the time of Isaiah?
Because it wasn't time.
The promise. The promise. I know it's almost blasphemy to say today that, I'll use the word, the Jews are not God's chosen people. They were. They were right here. But that purpose had been served. Don?
Going to Revelation, why did John, inspired by God, call Israel Babylon?
Because of what we're seeing right here.
So how is Israel acting like Babylon?
How did they act like Babylon?
Right.
Because what do you associate with Babylon? Paganism. Just way out in left field. That's my understanding. Go ahead.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. And what happened to Babylon? Well, we're not there yet. We're going to get there. We're not there yet in our study of Isaiah. Because during the time of Isaiah, the primary enemy was the Assyrians. It came later that the Babylonians became the primary enemy. As you remember the vision that Nebuchadnezzar had in Daniel's interpretation in Daniel chapter 2. Class, all of this history comes together. There's no contradiction. There's no contradiction at all. There are variations, but no contradiction. It weaves together perfectly. Remember, we are seeing how the picture came together. They were part of the picture coming together. We have the picture. We have the picture before us, right here. Right here. We're just seeing how it come or how it came together. They didn't have the picture, although it was becoming clearer and clearer and clearer. As we're going to see that as we move through, I don't know how long it's going to take us. I told the elders the other day, whenever they're ready for a change here, just let me know, I'll step aside. But we're in for this study for a long time. There's, 66 chapters? I think 66 chapters. And it will become a little bit clearer, a little bit, I would say, smoother as we move on. And I hope it is to you. It is to me. I am blessed to be able to stand before you. Scared to death, but blessed because of what it forces me to do. And I hope I can hopefully somehow convey some of that to you. This is the making of my salvation. That's what makes it interesting. All right, let's go. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Now, where are we? We're in the burden. Okay, let's see. Burden against Arabia. I'll tell you what. Let's do. Let's just read this. Well, let's read 13 through 15. Isaiah 21. 13 through 15.
The cost of the levy you will lodge. O you traveling companies of Gedonites, O inhabitants of the land of Teman, bring water to him who is thirsty. With their bread and that give him who fled. For they fled from the swords, from the drawn sword, from the bent bow, from the distress of war.
I'm not quite sure. I'll have to admit, I'm not quite sure the thought in verses 13 through 15. What I was able to understand that as people passed through that area in their maybe commercial traveling and all, the people would provide them water and food. That's my understanding. But the real impact of this is verses 16 and 17. All right? Somebody read.
For thus the Lord said to me, within a year, according to the years of a hired worker, all the glory of Kedar will come to an end. And the remainder of the archers of the mighty men of the sons of Kedar will be few, for the Lord, the God of Israel, has spoken.
All right, that pretty much explains it. What's going to happen? Now there again, did Judah have some confidence and hope in these people for help? If they did, the Lord said within a year it's going to vanish. Don?
Is Arabia the place for the Ishmaelites as well?
I'm sorry?
Is Arabia the place for the Ishmaelites as well?
If you say so, I cannot remember. I cannot remember all this.
I'm asking the question.
I don't know. I cannot. I cannot keep all this history.
Those were cities in Arabia.
Do what now?
Timnah was one of Ishmael's sons, Timnah. And that's one of the cities, and I don't know about Kedar. I think his name was maybe one of his sons.
Okay. The point is, Judah, are you listening? When you act like those people, you're going to have the same judgment. Except, and the except is because of the promise. I go back to that Ezekiel chapter 18, where he says, Judah, you have become worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. You have become worse than Samaria or the northern 10 tribes. But you still exist. And we know why. We know why. All right, now, chapter 22.
In Genesis 25, verses 13 through 15, both those names are mentioned.
Genesis 25. If some of you, if you're making a mental note or a literal note, you can jot that down. All right, now, in chapter 22, our time is getting away with us. The burden against the valley of vision, and again, we learn from this that this is dealing with Jerusalem. Now, is this talking about the time of Sennacherib or the time of Nebuchadnezzar? It seems to me, as I study this and draw on other people's knowledge, it seems to be dealing with the time of Sennacherib. Remember, he was the king of the Assyrian Empire, him and the others as well. So as you read this, if you are interested, as you read this, you might want to keep that point very carefully in mind. Okay? All right, let's just get our feet wet on this. Let's read 22, let's see, we'll read verses 1 through 4. 22, 1 through 4. Somebody?
The oracle concerning the valley of vision. What is the matter with you now that you have all gone up to the housetops? You were full of noise, you boisterous town, you exultant city. Your slain were not slain with the sword, nor did they die in battle. All your rulers have fled together and have been captured without foe. All of you who were found were taken captive together, though they had fled far away. Therefore I say, turn your eyes away from me. Let me weep bitterly. Do not try to comfort me concerning the destruction of the daughter of my people.
Now, if you go back, and I go back again to that 2 Kings, chapters 18, 18 and 19. After Sennacherib's army was at 186,000.
185.
Okay, whatever it was just wiped out overnight. The children of Israel should have been humbled. They should have been in an attitude of praise and thanksgiving. But this seems to detect they were not. They were not thankful. All right, you got your feet wet. This is an important chapter. It's long, but there's a lot of information.